trying to teach my children the art of joke telling. Clearly they have it genetically.
Sure.
So they get it. I like to teach them jokes that are just slightly uncomfortable for a 5-year-old or 3-year-old to be telling.
Things that are slightly inappropriate.
Just slightly inappropriate.
Yeah, sure.
Just maybe people just go, should you be telling that? So my favorite is a pirate walks into a bar with a steering wheel in his pants.
Okay.
And the bartender looks at him and says, what's up with the steering wheel? Yeah, the pirate says, tis driving me nuts.
Quiet, please.
It's great. He nails it every time.
Sure.
I always like him to tell in mixed company with people who are like totally be uncomfortable
Would be
with this
offended
joke.
by that?
Yeah.
Sure.
And I'm like, what do you mean? The pirate's just going
4,
insane from the steering wheel.
3,
Try to cover for him.
2.
The Awful Company presents a truly terrible podcast. Welcome to Nonsense Season 2, Episode 5. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm Stiddle.
This is our take on the week's business, tech, and entertainment headlines. This time, we'll look at where it's at.
Clap your hands, bottles and cans. It's a Beck song.
Probably not. It's National Dark Chocolate Day. Do you like dark chocolate?
I do like dark chocolate. As I've gotten older, my like for dark chocolate has only increased.
It's very divisive. People either like dark chocolate or they don't.
Sure.
People who like milk chocolate, they think we're the devil.
Sure.
And they may not be wrong.
Oh, no, they're wrong. If you want milk, have a glass of milk. That's fine.
100%. And if you want like sugar mixed in with your chocolate so that it's, do that. But
Absolutely.
don't put it in my chocolate.
Yeah. There are a few things in life that I want more pure than my chocolate. It's just my chocolate and my cocaine. I prefer not have cut with anything in it.
It's also National Freedom Day, honoring the signing by Abraham Lincoln of a joint House and Senate resolution that later became the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. President Lincoln signed it on February 1st, 1865. It was not ratified by the states, however, until December 18th, 1865. It reads, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the parties shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction.
I'm just curious, what were they debating for the 10 months until they got around to signing this thing? Which part of it were they concerned about?
It just breaks my heart that anyone ever had this as a question in their mind, whether or not this should be.
It was like there was one of those excellent Borat episodes where he got the guy in the South to explain slavery to him, and he was like, it's good that they don't have it anymore for them.
For them.
He literally gets the guy to say it, and it's like, dude, what part of empathy is lost on you when you go, I think we should probably get rid of slavery? No.
And what part of you just got really lucky you weren't born into this
Exactly.
race that happened to be the slaves at that moment? That's just insane. How
definition of
crazy
empathy?
are you?
Yeah.
My head's going to explode. How's your week going?
So I just want to make sure I understand this. We talk about slavery, and then you ask me how my week's going.
How's your week going?
I mean,
I hope your week's going well.
Usually my view is when we get to this part, I then have to think about like, oh, fuck, well, slavery. But now I just go, well, at least I'm not a slave, I guess. Is that what you want me to do? Where I'm in a better,
At least you're not living in a country that allows and has in its constitution allowance for slavery.
Well, no, fortunately, we've taken that part out. However, I do feel like a slave, and a slave to Apple specifically.
Yeah.
Because I finally gave in and bought some Apple silicone this week.
You bought an M3.
I didn't. I bought an M2, actually. I bought an M2
Why an
Max.
M2? Tell me why an M2.
Because I wanted a studio. I wanted a desktop machine. They don't have M3s in those. And from what I've come to understand, the M3 is mainly a energy and performance improvement.
It came quick. It came very quick on the heels of the M2.
But it doesn't perform. I think the M2 Max outperforms the M3 in many situations, but I didn't get deep into it. All I know.
But it sucks more power, right?
No, it sucks less power. The M3. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Sorry. The M2 sucks more power. The M3.
Yes.
Yeah, the M3
Right.
is more power efficient.
That was the fix.
Yeah. And the studio is only like 8 months old, so hopefully I'm not too bad in mid-cycle, yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
But the real reason I bought it, because I didn't want to, is that if you want to run the Vision OS emulator for the upcoming Vision Pro,
Right.
it does not run on an Intel chip. So you have to have Apple Silicon. So it means you have to give the Apple overlords more of your money.
Well, that's how it works. If you're in the Apple world, they want your entire bank account.
But it does have very many cores. So I have a lot of cores.
How many cores? That's exciting. That's something I can get behind.
Yeah, it's like 12 CPU cores and I think 38 GPU cores and then like 16 neural cores. It's a lot of cores.
That doesn't seem like a lot of cores to me, but man, that's great.
Well, the
Good
big
for
one's
you.
like 24 and 96, like 24 CPU cores.
Now you're
insane.
talking my language. Now
it's a
you've
lot
got
of
my
cores.
attention.
I don't need that many cores.
Oh, you do. Once you have them, you'll never go back.
Nah, I want LMs on them, and I do want to get a bigger one, but now's not the time. I'll wait for the refresh and buy at the start of the cycle. But man, the thing that I don't only buy a new Mac every 3-4 years is just the premium and markup they make on memory and storage. Holy shit!
It's such a gouge.
It's an absolute gouge, and it's like, well, you can get pretty good NVMe drives with TB4, Thunderbolt 4 enclosures for a fraction of the price.
You're using standard Samsung memory. You're just soldering it to the board so that your boards can't be upgraded. It's the same memory everybody's using.
Look, you're soldering to the board because you can make it smaller and the packaging, and you get a little more throughput.
It's not smaller. It's the same size. It's literally the same chip.
Faster.
It's literally the exact same chip. It's not faster either. It's the same chip.
Look, do you want Apple to have a sphere building or not?
This is why you just have to get used to it.
You have to give them all your money. You have to give them all of your money. So yeah, so there's some new Apple goodies coming my way. How about you? What
I'm happy that you're getting some new goodies, and
no, you're not. You want me to have Arch Linux on everything.
I'm chortling a little bit of how much you just spent for something you could have spent a whole lot less for.
Oh no! You don't spend all that. No, it's a 30-year mortgage.
Yes,
you have it over time. You don't just send them. I don't have like 3 gold Cougarons to send them. No.
Sure.
You finesse this over time.
You have to wire them the money because the amount is so large.
Yeah, exactly. You get a credit card. No.
Credit cards can't do that.
But the paperwork's done. The device is in escrow. I hope I have it in the next probably 30 days. It'll be great. Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely fucking insane. I sent a screenshot of this to one of our mutual friends, and I just titled it "Goodbye Money." This is what I sent the screenshot of the order to.
But I will say there is, because I've done this many times, there is a very large premium that you can put on developing for a machine that very few people are developing for yet. People will develop for it eventually. Exactly. Because you're early, you'll get this huge advantage in sales. I think that's great. I totally get the business case for
that. Would require me to sell something. I'm more interested in building things for my barbecue smoker.
Oh. You're going to make personal devices?
I think so. I don't know. I can't be sure.
Okay. In this case, I might say then you've overpaid.
I've jumped to step 6, which is the profit step. The stuff in the middle I can't be bothered with the details.
Oh, sure.
That's an employee problem, not a leader problem. So I've got a bunch more overpriced silicone coming my way. How about you? How was your week, Ben?
The only thing I'm interested about my week is this atmospheric river that we're having. We were supposed to get an inch of rain just last night. An inch of rain, which in Southern California, for parts of the world, you think an inch of rain. You're in Kauai, you get an inch of rain every 5 minutes.
Sure,
who cares?
Sure.
It's the most rained on place on the face of the earth. In Los Angeles, an inch of rain is a lot of rain.
So did you build an ark?
I'm thinking about building an ark. I slept through most of it. Do you sleep well when it rains?
I do. I actually really enjoy the sound of the rain.
It's magical. What is the deal with the sound of rain? It just is great. Everything about it.
Is that evolutionary? Have we just learned that when it rains, you can't do anything else? You might as well sleep. You can't go out and hunt or gather.
Those manufactured sound of raindrops doesn't do it for me. It's the actual rain.
I definitely prefer the rain. The manufactured rain works for me. My only challenge is there's a little part of my brain that's like rain anxiety that kicks in because I live on the side of a hill.
Oh yeah.
And granted, it's been here for a long time, but when it rains, you're just like, is today the day the hillside lets go? I'm not sure. Is it today or is it when the next owner buys the house? Preferably the next owner.
Should we get to our headlines?
I would think that would be the next right step for us.
The Vision Pro is out tomorrow. Apple is launching a new kind of computing device during a bitter fight with a sizable number of developers over its walled garden approach to iOS.
I don't think it's a bitter fight. You got a handful of developers that are grumpy.
It's Epic, it's Google, it's Netflix. They got a few. But anyway, that's not important. Let's talk about the Vision Pro. You're excited. You got yours ordered. Yours is going to arrive tomorrow?
I'm not going to confirm or deny the arrival or not arrival or ordering of a Vision Pro.
Yeah.
I am going to say that it's a very interesting device, and I'm very excited about it. And that if I were to have ordered one, I believe it will show up tomorrow.
And you're going to have those fake eyes on the outside that it puts. Have you seen what it looks like?
Hypothetically, if I ordered a Vision Pro, it would have fake eyes on the outside. Sure. Again, this is just hypothetical, theoretical in nature. Yes, it does put eyes on the outside. We are in this weird, bizarro world that I don't understand, where we have goggles that tell us things and it has fake eyes on the outside. When we FaceTime with each other now, it's avatars of ourselves.
The avatars are spooky looking. They're weird.
We're in a fucking simulation. Yeah, but they're only going to get better. I mean, of course they're going to continue to get better.
Everything does.
I just why give me an avatar that looks like me? Like, I'm chunky and old. Like, make it look like better me. Like, I want to Zoom has
I want to be a hunk.
Yeah, Zoom has that little slider that just, says improve appearance. I set that to 12. Why wouldn't I?
Sure.
Be like, oh, I thought I was talking to CJ and it's George Clooney. I'm like, yep, that's how I look now. Why not?
George Clooney 30 years ago.
Yeah, or even now. He's going to win even when he's 80. I'll still be me and he'll be him.
Have you seen his father? Have you seen Nick?
No.
Father looks great too.
Of course.
His father's 30 years older and he looks fantastic.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm over here with my frumpy Miatar. Have you watched any of the videos?
I have watched several videos. Yeah, I actually saw videos a long time ago, but there's new ones that are out with all the reviews.
There's some pretty cool stuff. Like the spatial computing aspect of it is what I think is really neat. And I think that's going to open up a whole world.
I think that's the most interesting thing. I do think somebody should make a spatial movie with their iPhone 15 Pro, whatever the cameras are.
When you say spatial movie, you mean like Pro. So you can, while you're watching it, you can look around sort of in 3D?
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
Super neat. I mean, that's a lot of footage to get, but it is certainly cool. I'm just intrigued about the way you can attach things and augment the world around you. And that to me is really neat.
You can attach some timers to some pots. And
Brad, did you watch the video? Yeah, where like you can watch you're boiling,
of course
pot
I
of water.
The video. What am I What do I live in a cave? Of course I watch the video.
I don't know. They're not Android. I don't know if you watch them. I don't know if you give the ample
I watch
time.
everything. I'm a voracious consumer of all things in the world.
The travel case that Apple makes for the Vision Pro is $200.
Sure.
That is literally half the price of a MetaQuest 3 for just the case.
Right. Get over it. It's Apple. You're going to way overpay.
Like, this is peak Apple insanity. Oh, by the way, the case is bright white because, that's going to age well.
Of course it is, because nothing stays clean better than something that's white.
Just bright white.
It looks great on the day you buy it.
Sure. And then every day thereafter, it looks like some scuffed up piece of shit. There is a theoretical gambling pool going amongst my friends that are also ordering Vision Pros over how many days mine will last until my children break it. And I suggested that the over-under would be February 4th, and most everybody else has said it would be February 2nd. And I was like, but the kids are in school for half the day. They're like, February 2nd.
Because you got a half a day, February 2nd. I'm in on the February 2nd.
Yeah, that's pretty much what everybody
thinks. By the way,
thinks.
why they didn't make that cord, so it's just a standard USB-C cord. So if you break the cord, you just plug something else in. Or you can plug in some other battery, any other USB-C battery that's got the capacity for it.
Well, there's two answers to this. There's the reality answer, which I think is they didn't want some plug sticking out of the side of your head sideways. So it's got some little 90-degree-ish connector thing on it.
I don't mean that part. I mean the part that connects to the battery.
Oh, that's soldered in?
Yeah, it's soldered in instead of a
Oh,
a plug.
yeah. Well, how's you can sell $200 batteries?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's held on with a piece of string and some unicorn blood.
They look like they're going to break if you look at them wrong.
Oh, I'm sure they will. Yeah, you should buy more. No problem.
Okay, enough of the headlines. Up next, we're going to talk about location.
Do you know where you are right now?
I do not.
Exactly. That's the problem. Do you know where we are right now?
See, I'm not sure what you mean by the question, but I think we're all over the planet. I mean, anybody can play this back anywhere.
That's not true.
That's the fun of podcasting.
I'm pretty sure the folks in North Korea and probably China can't get this. I think that
there are... Okay, there might be some limitations.
A handful of places.
But in Norway, we're quite popular.
Yes, we're huge in Norway. No, here's what I want to talk about: where we are, how we know where we are, and how
geographically
we know,
where we are.
Geographically, yes. Geographically,
we're in my backyard.
Yes, of course.
At my blue table.
But how did we get here? How do we know how to get here? That's kind
you
of the
drove
bigger
over.
question.
You brought donuts.
I did,
and they're delicious, by the way.
Okay, I'm kind of fascinated with some things that have advanced most recently with navigation and describing locations specifically on the planet. So I think it's kind of cool.
You're talking about modern ways we know where we are, like GPS?
But all things you can't get to modern unless you talk a little bit about the past, right? And how we got here.
Of course.
So I wanted to think about and talk about with you briefly how we've navigated in the past. Not you and I, because, well, maybe
we weren't here.
We weren't here, exactly. And previous version of me was just a rock. So not much different than current version of me.
Less navigation.
Less navigation, more sitting still. Okay, so historical navigation methods. What do these look like? Right? Early on, we had, I think, what was like, we would refer to as landmark navigation.
Oh, sure.
Right? Where like, this is how they would sail. You would just stay
close to the coast because you had to see something.
Yeah. And then you would just go down, and then when you saw like a tall
sailing
building,
off to where you couldn't see anything, that was doom. That was death.
Which is why I think literally on the maps they drew dragons out there, right? Isn't it the whole reason?
Because there might as well be.
Yeah.
You aren't finding your way home.
It was bad times. So then I think we got smarter with dead reckoning. Do you know what dead reckoning is?
I don't know what that is.
You've heard the term before, though, right?
Last location.
Well,
navigation.
You know where you started.
Yeah.
And then you know the direction and the speed that you went, and then you just chart it.
Great. So long as there's no wind, so long as there's no...
Exactly. I mean, no wind, no ocean current, right?
Sure.
Anything could fuck this up. So it's really hard. But I think, they had to develop ways to get good at this, where they try to figure out what ocean currents were and wind. And then you just plot it and try to be very accurate with telling time so that you knew where you would end up.
Yeah.
But that was dead reckoning, which was... probably not the best, but the best we had at the time.
By the way, there's a thing you just dropped in there rather incidentally, like it was nothing, that is the most important thing that I can think of to navigation, period.
Which is time.
Time. You just mentioned time and you just blew right by it, and time is everything.
Well, but back then they all had Apple Watches, so it was easy.
Okay.
Well, the version 1, I mean, it wasn't great, but it had cellular.
Sure. Which is amazing thing is the technology for Apple has not advanced since then.
No, it hasn't.
They're selling the same watch. They just upped the price.
It's just a lot of sand. If you forget to turn the sand over, you're really screwed. That's something I think we should talk more about in a future episode, is the telling of time and tracking of time, because I do think that is super interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you've got Dead Reckoning, you've got landmark navigation.
Yeah.
And I believe the next step then was using stars. Celestial navigation.
I'm sure. Of course.
Because now it's like an upgrade from Dead Reckoning, because now you've got some sort of relative positioning system.
Also that require time. I mean, time is,
Totally.
you basically can't use stars unless you know what time it is, when it is in the year, when it is in the evening.
And you needed what was it thing called, a sextant? I think you needed a sextant in order to, because that would tell you the angle of the star to where you were. And then you could chart based on where you knew the constellations are. Obviously the constellations don't move relative to each other. You could chart, well, at least not very quickly. You could chart where you were based on the position of those things. But what's interesting about that, and you've been to the Southern Hemisphere before, right?
I have.
It's all different.
Well, sure. Of course it's all different. It has to be.
Well, no, I don't know how the disc works. I remember my first time going to the Southern Hemisphere, and I could not figure out what was off. Something was just off, and I didn't know what it was. And then it took me like a day to just kind of look up and be like, oh, I don't recognize anything above me.
Sure.
Which prior to that, right, you just take that for granted. You've always seen the same view of the universe.
Yeah. A great song, When You See the Southern Cross for the First Time.
That's a song?
If I could sing, I would sing it for you, but I can't.
We develop the sort of understanding of constellations. I think from a little bit of research I've done on this, I think it was the ancient Minoans who lived in the Mediterranean island of Crete from about 3000 to 1100 BCE.
Literally Cretans.
They left records of using the stars to navigate.
Okay.
That's not that long ago. It's long ago, but not that long ago, like 5,000-ish years.
And not so cretinous, kind of smart.
Pretty smart. But again, you had to know the different constellations, and you had to know these distances, but they started to develop that over time. They needed that sextant, as I had mentioned. You also needed an accurate clock and an almanac so that you knew the positions of the celestial bodies over time, because that shit all changes, right? As you move through the year.
What time of year is it? Yes.
Now, my understanding is back then, I don't know this, I'm not a scholar on the Cretan. My understanding is it made it very difficult to get your DoorDash delivered to the correct house. I think that would... It would, because you try to describe.
Even with GPS, which gives me, measurement down to like a meter, they can't get the right order to my house.
But imagine when you're describing that you are 12 degrees and 8 minutes south by southwest of the Big Dipper. And then the guy's like, what? Just bring me my fucking egg rolls already. Interesting, by the way, when I was looking at some of this celestial navigation, NASA and other space agencies continue to use sophisticated celestial navigation for many of their missions outside of the Earth's atmosphere.
What choice do they have?
Right, exactly. Like GPS
the
don't work so
satellite's
good.
buzzing around the Earth, but if you're leaving that territory, you're done.
The astronauts and engineers of the Apollo program, they use celestial navigation to chart their way to the moon and back, which is pretty cool.
Hopefully engineers did that ahead of time before they were even, flying.
You don't think they thought about it once they got up there?
Yeah, I don't think you want that flight path being calculated on the fly.
Houston, do we turn left at Houston? Where do we turn? I don't understand. Just hurling around the planet. The Mars exploration rover used celestial navigation, and then you may recall, a couple of years ago now, almost exactly 2 years ago, the fine guidance sensor in February of 2022 of the James Webb Space Telescope.
Sure.
When it was traveling to Lagrange 2, it had to lock on to a specific guide star.
Right, it has to.
In tracking mode to deploy its hexagonal segments. That's part of
There's no GPS satellite out there to help.
Well, there is. It just doesn't work very well. It just says error, no signal. And then it just keeps hauling ass out to LG2 or Lagrange 2. So we had stars. And then after stars, what do you think came after stars? What would be next? You would think historically after stars.
I think we went right to GPS.
Straight to GPS. We went straight. We skipped everything else. Straight to GPS. No,
we used stars right up until like the mid 90s, and then GPS.
Yeah, totally. Compasses.
Compasses came after sextants.
Oh yeah,
that's amazing.
Sure.
I had no idea.
Compasses were about 1100 CE, give or take.
Yeah,
which is still only relative to the Earth, obviously, magnetic pole.
Sure.
But that wasn't until like 1100s-ish CE. So those haven't been around that long, compasses.
Wow, that's impressive. For some reason, I thought that would have come earlier.
When? I mean, good point.
In the Iron Age. Right as soon as we had the Iron Age, we could make axes, and we could also make compasses.
The first three things off the line were axes, compasses, and then early iPods. Those are the first three things off the line.
Knife blades and compasses. What are you doing with the shavings from the knife blade? Oh, you'll see. I'll make this thing called a compass.
And not too far off from the reality. Then you've got something more recent-ish where you have, and this is sort of like, I put this underneath the category of piloting at large. You've got radio navigation, which is very much like celestial navigation, but instead of using stars, you're using radio waves that have been broadcast from known beacons.
Signals at a known
known
location.
Yep. And you can tune a navigator later can tune into a radio station, use an antenna, find the direction,
Yeah.
and sort of figure out where they are, right? They can triangulate their position.
We had those for planes up until not that many years ago.
Yeah. What else? Because what else did you have?
Every runway was using those so that you could navigate your way in.
And I believe in most cases, I think those are still on. I think for smaller aircraft, they still can use that as
really?
a backup. I think so.
For like super old aircraft, maybe.
Well,
yeah.
also interesting.
I would think as they would break down, they would stop repairing them because fewer and fewer people would be using them.
Technically, radar is a type of radio navigation. Do you know what radar stands for?
No.
Radio detection and ranging.
Okay.
Which
I mean,
makes
basically,
sense.
you're throwing energy out and looking at the bounce.
Look at what comes back. Yeah. And that was an option for navigation. So you had this up until like the 70s when you deployed GPS. So GPS is a system that was funded and controlled by the U.S. government's Department of Defense. And technically now anybody with a GPS receiver can use it. But it was deployed between like 1978 and 1985, initially with 11 satellites.
I don't remember any use or being able to use it until the mid-late 90s.
That's right, because they kept it encrypted. They kept it secure. So they now have I think 24 satellites in orbit around the Earth.
GPS? No. And the only reason I know this is
no.
because I flew drones and some of the drones I flew were controlled by GPS.
Yeah.
There are 32. I think 24 are the active ones and the other ones are spares in case something happens to one of the 24.
So they've got 24 plus an N of a half, N of a third.
Yeah.
You had GPS come up around 1978, give or take, but it was only really for U.S. military use. It's basically radio navigation, right?
Do you know what caused us to move from just military use to commercial use?
I'm going to guess here that it was the dating game.
You'd think it was the dating game. No, it was actually a commercial airplane that went into Russian airspace that the Russians shot down, and they didn't realize they. Do you remember this? This happened, and Reagan is the one who said, "Okay, we're making this open to commercial."
I don't remember it, but I've heard the story. That's right, and I think that'd be actually a really interesting segment. We should certainly talk about that because it has all the things we like, tech and aviation.
It's how we got open GPS.
You get some Musk in there as well. That sort of brings us, GPS, which is just radio navigation, effectively.
Yes,
right. You've got a fixed point in geosynchronous orbit. You've got a bunch of them, 24 to 32.
Oh, they're not geosynchronous orbit. No, they're whizzing around like
they're 100% geosynchronous orbit.
They are circling the Earth really, really fast. All 24.
Negative. They are your fixed point of reference. There's no way you could do the fucking math if they were moving.
Oh no, we actually track where they're supposed to be because we have to track an offset of where they are.
Well, yeah, but they're not.
You get transmitted an update of where all the satellites are, and because they do drift slightly, and so you get updated. Your GPS is constantly getting updated with the new position for where this satellite is.
Maybe it's got a little bit of drift, but they are in geosynchronous orbit. You're talking about drift of like, I gotta estimate that it's in like hundreds of feet or thousands of feet.
And the clocks drift a lot. That's even crazier.
Clocks shouldn't. The clock should stay pretty synced.
It's an atomic clock and it drifts every day. Literally enough that you would be off by more than half a foot every day, which would accumulate very quickly. But your GPS keeps getting updated with all of that drift information.
Better get this fucking right. No, it's a constellation. No, you're right. Each satellite circles the Earth twice a day.
By the way, the Russian system uses something cool because they know half of the satellites cannot be seen by half of the world at any given time. There are pairs of satellites that are diametrically opposed around the sphere, and they can broadcast on the exact same frequency.
Because they're on the opposite side?
Yeah.
Interesting.
They keep updating them. You know how long those GPS satellites, they only last like 10 years.
Well, clearly I don't know a goddamn thing because I thought they're all in geosynchronous orbit. So I'm going to go ahead and just say no. When you ask me a question about it, how about I just say no? Do you know how Nope, I don't, as it turns out. Can you fill me in?
I know very little about this. The only reason I know anything is because when I would fly drones that used GPS, you had to connect to at least 4 of these satellites in order to, by connect, I mean, they're talking to you. You're not talking to them.
Sure.
You're just receiving. But you had to have 4 of them that you were locked into in order to have this thing even work.
Okay.
Now, in Southern California, where I am, mostly you'd be connecting to 14 or 16 or something. You'd connect to a lot of them.
Sure. Yep, wrong about that too. All right, well, you're the GPS expert. So handing this segment over to you.
What else are you wrong about? I'm sorry, I missed something.
Just all of it. Just everything I've said about GPS. I thought it stood for Good Positioning Satellite. Doesn't even stand for that. Turns out it's
I like the name. I like that name.
Good Position Synchronous. No,
for me, it stands for the Global Public Square, Fareed Zakaria's show on CNN.
All right, I clearly need to learn more about these. I have no idea where I was in this segment.
I'm so sorry.
No,
the only reason I know anything about it is because I would fly drones that had GPS, and now I think all the drones are required because you have to constantly broadcasting position.
Totally. So as I was saying, these GPS satellites are constantly going around the Earth, just no end, and it works a lot like radio navigation, where the GPS device is receiving a signal from the satellites and it calculates its position based on the time it takes for the signal to transmit and relative to the exact position of the satellites. Right? I mean, it's just like radio.
I can even explain that because I had to explain this to my kid. Do you want an explanation?
Yes, please.
Picture my Aunt Mildred sends me a letter every day, and she dates the letter letter before she sends it.
Okay.
It's a magical post office that no matter where I am in the world, the letter finds me.
Okay.
But it takes every 100 miles away I am from the post office, it takes an additional day.
Takes an extra day.
To get to me. So I know how far away from Aunt Mildred's post office I am.
Yep.
Based upon the difference between the date of Aunt Mildred's letter and when I receive
100
it.
miles doesn't sound like a magical post office. It sounds like our post office.
Okay.
They had a day.
So basically, if I have two post office, Uncle Fred sends me a letter every day too.
Okay.
And it finds me.
Okay.
I can now have 2 points where potentially I am in the world.
Yes.
It's like a Venn diagram. There's 2 points where those circles intersect.
Totally.
Right.
With 1 day granularity.
Right. Obviously, those things are coming out much faster. The GPS is spitting out the time 1,000 times a second.
Aunt Mildred is a prolific writer.
So that's basically what's happening. But it requires 4 of them because you're in 3D. If we want to go X, Y, and Z, you now need 4 satellites blasting at you.
That's why I like to wear a Faraday cage around my car at all times.
Always.
I never know where I am.
I'm so sorry.
Let's make it a discussion, they said. Here's what happens when it's a discussion. Turns out I'm wrong about everything. So as I was saying, you get little stone tablets that come down from the GPS that you then have to read. The GPS tracks everybody and just tells you where you are at any given time. So then I was like, okay, what's interesting to me about this, especially, is car navigation. You got a lot of cars on the planet, people navigating, and how much that's changed.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit of digging, not a lot, a little bit of digging into this, and I think you're going to love this. When do you think the earliest car navigation was? Like relative car, let's say the car started in 1900, give or take. When do you think the earliest car navigation was up to 2025? 125 years.
Shortly after that, there was what you call dead reckoning navigations in cars, right? Is that was that the thing that exists?
Well, yeah. Jeff is 10 for 10 this episode, and I'm just a fucking toolbox, so that's fine.
Am I wrong?
No,
I'm
you're
not making
wrong.
this up.
You're not wrong. No, you're not wrong. I did not know this, and you would think me being the self-proclaimed car guy would have known this. One of the earliest navigation systems was from the 30s.
Oh, sure.
Right, and it was called the I think I'm pronouncing this correctly. The ITAR Avto was attached to your dashboard, and if you wanted to update your route, forget about the cloud. All your options were in your glove box. It used rolled paper maps, right? And you would insert them into the device, set your current position, and then it would just connect to the speedometer. And based on how far you had driven, it would progress the map.
The map. And of course, it would get off because you were never going quite.
But still, in the 30s, that's pretty fucking cool.
No, that's remarkable. It's remarkable.
There are
it's
also
cool.
like 8 roads. You just had to have like New York,
right?
Chicago, Detroit, and LA. And that was it. You had all the maps. Probably not even LA.
The GPS has no maps. The GPS just tells you where you are on the globe, your X, Y, and Z. You have to connect that to a map.
Of course, this system, very primitive, didn't do any routing. You still had to do that in your head.
Oh, sure.
I would be remiss to not take a quick second and mention one of my favorite things in the world of ever, all time, here now, which is what? You used to have one in your backseat in your car, I can almost promise.
Thomas Guide.
Thomas Guide, right?
Yeah, oh, sure. Love Thomas Guide. I was a big fan. I
still am. I mean, pretty much anybody over 40 years old that lived in California at any point, especially Southern California.
Among my favorite things about the Thomas Guide was there were bogus streets in it.
Oh, do they do that? So they throw people off? So
well, not to throw people off, but to throw people off who were copying their maps. That's how they copyrighted their map. They knew what was theirs and what wasn't. They put little streets in there that didn't really exist.
And they could find it and be like, we know that there is no Adelaide on this page. Oh, that's pretty funny. That makes perfect sense. Okay, so the Thomas Brothers, for people that have no fucking idea what we're talking about, the Thomas Brothers maps, which were the publishers of the Thomas Guide, previously known as the Popular Street Atlas, the Street Guide.
Big fat book of maps.
Do you know when it was started and where? I'll be very impressed if you know this.
Not a clue.
Take a guess.
San Francisco is the first one I know about.
And what year? Ish.
Absolutely no clue.
So
before I was born.
I assumed it's pretty close. I assumed it was started in Southern California. I was wrong. It was started in Oakland, California. So +1 to you. Okay. Right about the year you were born, 1915.
Oh wow, fantastic! Yeah, I was about 10 then. Yeah.
Started in 1915 by cartographer George Copeland Thomas and his 2 brothers. Hence the name.
Hence Thomas Brothers. Sure.
Thomas Brothers. Right. Early publications were detailed block maps, bird eye view of communities, road and highway maps that would be generally referred as generalized tourist maps. They also produced redlining maps of L.A., Sacramento, San Francisco, San Jose, and the East Bay for the U.S. government-sponsored Home Owners Loan Corporation in the 1930s.
Well, that's interesting.
When I lived in California as a kid, I remember acting as a navigator when either of my parents were driving around, and I have extremely fond memories of, quote, working the Thomas Guide while my dad and I were like exploring different parts of California. And I loved that thing. I loved like index.
Yeah, sure.
Going to like page 73, A6, and trying to figure out the fuck you were. Now, of course, when I moved back to California as a slightly older kid, the first thing I bought for my first car was a set of Thomas Thomas guides for like all the counties that I ever find myself in. And it was great because much like now where you've got, Google Maps just save you, I knew I always had these Thomas guides for, the 3 most popular counties.
You were never lost.
You were never lost.
If you were in the territory of the Thomas guide, you were never lost.
So I would just drive around Los Angeles. And literally, I didn't know anybody here. 2 a.m, just driving around, and I'd end up somewhere and be like, where the fuck am I? How do I get home?
Yeah.
Thomas guide. And you would just figure it out and you could get back. No problem.
Yeah, it was great.
I still think I have the best knowledge of streets in Los Angeles because of doing that. Just like randomly driving around, figuring out where you would go. So in 1966, General Motors Research was working on a non-satellite based navigation assistance system called DAIR, Driver Aid Information and Routing.
Okay.
After initial tests, GM found that it was not a scalable or practical way to provide navigation
How did
assistance.
that work without satellites?
Don't know, but they said it was not scalable. So decades later, this sort of reappeared in what they called OnStar in 1996. So that's where its roots were 30 years previous. In 1971, there was a compact cassette-based navigation that followed predetermined routes. Instructions would be read, followed by a tone that would tell a controller to continue the cassette after the distance denoted by the tone had been reached.
Wow.
Didn't know that. Thought that was pretty crazy.
You have that still when you go into a museum and you can have the audio tour.
You're walking in between.
Similarly, yeah.
Totally, yeah. So the point I'm trying to make here is that these early pioneers had to be creative, right? They had to use like sensors in the car to determine relative positioning because you didn't have GPS yet.
Sure.
And looking at the rotation of the wheels and the position of the steering wheel, you could sort of measure distance and direction, but you're effectively doing dead reckoning still, right? Still effectively dead reckoning. Here's some other stuff I didn't know. In 1981, Honda's Electro Gyrocator was the first commercially available car navigation system. Mm-hmm. It used an internal navigation system which tracked the distance traveled, the start point, and the direction headed. It was also the first with a map display in your car in 1981. Instead of GPS, it had a gyroscope with 2 wires and a stream of helium to determine your position.
Wow.
Yeah, totally cheap, I'm sure. It used map overlays instead of digital maps. The dot was on a CRT that kind of showed your current location. All calculations and direction of travel were powered by a, wait for it, 16-bit computer.
Sure.
Now, in comparison to today's navigation solutions, it was extremely expensive. The cost was $2,700, which is like $9,000 by today's standards, right?
Sure.
Okay, so now you start to get into the era of digital maps. And in 1983, eTech was founded. It made an early system that used map matching to improve on dead reckoning instrumentation. The digital map information was stored on standard cassette tapes, which I still think is pretty cool and pretty crazy.
Amazing.
In 1990, you had the Mazda Unos Cosmo, which became the first production car with built-in GPS navigation. So much as you were saying, like you remember sort of mid-90s.
Yeah.
The first one was 1990.
I don't remember them in 1990. I remember them in the mid-late 90s.
Yeah, there was one car, one super advanced Mazda that had it. Now, this is kind of cool. This I did not know. General Motors partnered with the American Automotive Association, or as I believe our friend Jackie would call it, AAA, the Florida Department of Transportation, as well as the city of Orlando to create Travel Tech, which was short for Travel Technology. This was a computerized in-car navigation system, and they outfitted a fleet of 100 Oldsmobile Tornados. 75 of these were available for rent through Avis's Orlando International Airport. The other 25 were test-driven by local drivers. And it was a computer system installed in the trunk with a special antenna mounted on the back. It was hooked up to a video screen in the Tornado to display the navigation. And it covered about 12,000 square miles in Orlando and had listings for restaurants and AAA-approved hotels and attractions.
That's
so
cool.
To me, that was sort of like the first.
What was anchoring it? What was telling you where? What was telling you where you were?
I think the antenna did some triangulation. It was like local based.
Okay, so there's radios,
like radios, effectively
okay.
radio navigation. I think. Don't quote me on that. I had to put this in here because I'm a BMW guy. In 1994, the BMW 7 Series, the chassis code was E38, was the first European model featuring GPS navigation. This was developed in cooperation with Philips, so that was pretty cool. In 95, Acura introduced the first hard disk drive based navigation system in the 1996 RL. So now you're getting hard drives in cars in 96, which I did not think that was happening that soon. In 98, you had the first DVD-based navigation system in a Toyota.
Sure.
And then in 2000, the U.S. made a more accurate GPS signal available for civilian use.
The military was intentionally...
They were dropping some digits.
Slipping milliseconds
noise.
So that you would not have accuracy unless you were on the military system.
Yeah, my understanding of that was for targeting reasons, for both targeting on the ground and targeting of the satellites themselves. That's what I thought they were concerned
But the rest
about
of the
that.
government, the Navy, the Coast Guard, all those people wanted accurate GPS. We really need accurate GPS. And so eventually they gave in. By the way, the military system still uses 2 radio bands, which gives them extraordinary accuracy.
Interesting.
We do a thing now that's called GPS with assist. And that is we have a ground station that basically knows where it is and gets its GPS readings and says, well, according to the GPS, I'm 15 yards to the north of where I actually am. So adjust yourself by 15 yards. And if you're close enough to that ground assist, you can adjust and true up your navigation.
Well, assuming people like this segment, I want to do a deeper dive in the near future, because what else is super cool is, the GPS is relative to what? Like, what is it relative to? It's relative to the ball, like the planet. You've got plates that are sliding around, and Australia is moving.
I believe it's the center of the mass of the Earth.
This is what I think is so cool. During this time, we saw delivery through cassette tapes, CDs, DVDs, in-dash navigation, and then ultimately now we're in a world of like over-the-air updates and cloud querying. Right, that's our world of navigation. We completely take it for granted.
That's just for the maps. That's not for the GPS signal of where am I right now.
Yes. I'm combining
just
the two, right?
The maps, right.
Because I'd argue that either of those by itself isn't terribly useful, but you put them together and they become super valuable.
Super useful.
Right? GPS tells you where you are, and then these mapping systems tell you sort of, okay, here's the point you are on the globe, but here's what that looks like.
Yeah.
And then you can do routing and all sorts of other cool shit. I'm sure everybody listening to this program has Google Maps or Apple Maps or some sort of phone-based navigation system, right?
Sure.
Damn near every new car comes with some kind of either included navigation or a system that allows your phone to provide navigation for you. So I feel like that part of the problem has been pretty well solved.
And a lot of overlays. You're getting a ton of additional information now in overlays that's really cool.
Like restaurants or
just traffic. Live traffic.
Yeah. Super cool. And I would argue that's table stakes. Pretty much everybody has that now.
Sure.
There are a couple interesting holes that I did want to point out at the end of this segment for our listeners. At least a couple holes that I've identified. I'm sure you have some too. One is offline, right? You become dependent on these cloud systems. What happens when you're offline? And for those that don't know, at least with Google Maps,
I download maps all the time onto my phone. So
download maps on Google Maps is super easy. You can basically just drag a box in the area that you want, click a button, and it'll download the map. It holds it for some insane amount of period of time, like a half a year or something like that.
Until it goes out of date, because I get notifications on mine all the time when they go out of date. Do you want to update your map?
Yeah, which is great, because now if you're traveling someplace where there either isn't connectivity, maybe you're traveling abroad and you're not going to have your data stack turned on, you can have those maps saved for you in your phone.
And by the way,
super cool.
Your data stack is not how you're getting your GPS location. Yes. There's a GPS radio in your phone.
Totally.
It's not transmitting anything. It's just receiving. So your GPS can be on. It's not giving away your position to anyone. You're just listening.
I'm specifically talking about the map data, right? The ground-based data, the streets and the rivers and the lakes and all that stuff. Overlanding. So I'm a huge fan of exploring the wilderness. I take my kids off trail parts of the U.S. all the time. Google Maps is pretty much useless in these places. They don't have any mapping that's off the beaten path.
Well, if you took a Google phone with you, if you took an Android phone with you, you'd be adding to the mapping, because that's how it works.
But it still doesn't.
That's exactly how you get the map as people go there.
Yeah, but I'm not telling you that this is a trail or this is something that I'm hiking.
Oh, sure. And there are errors until people start figuring those things out.
Yeah,
but you start to see, okay, there's a bunch of Android phones and they're all going down this route. There must be something there.
Sure, but by definition, the places that I'm going aren't traveled enough that even if I carried a shitty Android phone, I would ever have enough data to populate the thing, because I'm going places where I don't want to see people. So I think kind of by definition that would never happen. However,
but if 7 people go there a year and not at the same time, they never see other people, but you do get the data of where they went.
For 7, I think the over-under would be like hundreds before they'd actually see the data.
Even with a tiny amount, they know, they're all going on the same thing. There's probably a path.
Do they mark it as a trail and put the number on it? I don't understand how they get the data.
Turns out they also own satellites. So yeah, they actually can take a look at where people are walking.
I just don't think they care. I don't think they care about what we call overlanding. I don't think they care about overlanding, but hell if I know. I mean,
I think they probably care passionately. I think Apple does too. I think all of them want to have really good guidance.
I'll challenge you on that, because
everywhere.
The data exists. They just don't use it. And this is the example I want to give. I strongly suggest an app called Gaia GPS. And Gaia allows me to pull in pretty much whatever map source I want. I can pull in satellite, topographical, USFS, so they have the U.S. Forest Service maps. Those have all the marked trails on them that I want. I just can't see them in Google Maps. And to my knowledge, there's no way to pull them into Google Maps. Again, I just don't think Google cares about this.
Because Google doesn't want data that they don't own. I'm sure that's part of the issue. Apple doesn't want data that they don't own either. They want stuff that they generated. There's also another thing, if you ever see OpenStreets.com, which is an open maps project, and that it's trying to do the same thing in a way that the idea is to try to get all this information available freely to the world.
Yeah, which I love. I mean, it should be free.
Yeah.
In the U.S., we've done I think a tremendous job, especially with this overland stuff. The U.S. Forest Service has a ton of maps. I buy them on paper still. But with Gaia, you can go in. So if I'm going to an area, if I'm going to go camping in some area, I'll pull a map of, something like 20 or 30 square miles of the area that I'm in. And I pull it on all the topo maps. I pull it on the satellite maps, basically anywhere that I could drive or hike in that period while we're there.
Yeah.
And Gaia does that for me, and it's very cheap and it's very, very good. And I can get all the forest marked trails, and they're pretty damn accurate. I found them to be pretty current and pretty accurate. So I strongly recommend Gaia GPS. But there's this other hole that I think is really more interesting and was ultimate inspiration for this segment, which is where you have overlanding or underserved holes. Basically, how do you address something in these areas, right? Like a given location. We have a pretty good numbering system here in the U.S. for buildings and retail stores and homes and whatnot. It's pretty good. But there's a lot of stuff that you just can't address. How do you address a specific location when you're overlanding somewhere, right? Like what
longitude, latitude, altitude.
So that's the most common one is you use lat and long. Yeah. But those are terrible systems for humans, right? They're just like 36.3894. It's just not a great system.
Right.
So,
you got to translate them into something humans can understand better.
The couple that I want to put out there, one is what we now call open location codes. This was previously the Google Plus codes. Mm-hmm. And these are, Plus codes are like street addresses for people or places that don't have one. And instead of addresses with street names and all that crap, these are based on latitude and longitude and displayed as numbers and letters. It's a pretty good system. It does have some gaps, but it's at least a start and it's open. Google did, I think they put it under an Apache license, so it is open.
Apache license is very, very open. That's impressive. They do that.
There's another system that I really wanted to like more, which is called What 3 Words. Have you ever heard of What 3 Words?
No.
These guys, I met these guys years ago, and I thought this was a great idea. I really think they fucked it up, but I'll leave that for the masses to determine. They divided the world into 3-meter squares and gave each square a unique combination of 3 words.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Not land. Everything. Right? They took the whole planet.
No, I'm with you.
So, I really love this concept, but it has a bunch of shortcomings. One, they've kept it proprietary.
Okay.
And I met these guys like, I don't know, 10 plus years ago, maybe 15 years ago. And I was like, you have to open this up. Like,
it's a great way for your system to die.
Exactly. So there's a couple of things that I think make it practically concerning. One is that word order matters. And I think that's hard for humans, right? Because humans, like I can remember 3 words, remembering them in the right order to get to the right place. And then they have these easily confused words. Like, for example, in their dictionary, they have the word wants and once. Well, those are really easy.
Oh, yeah, that's a problem.
Right? And like,
especially if you're giving navigation over the radio or over the phone or something. Yeah, sure.
And that's what they want. They wanted it to be like, especially used for emergency dispatch, which is a great idea if you want to get to the location that I'm at, but you have to solve these problems.
Yeah.
And somebody did some analysis on this. I thought this was really the sort of data analysis of why this is problematic. They looked at a 20-kilometer area, and there are 3,200 locations that can be confused just by adding or removing a character S to one of the words.
Oh, man.
That's not good, right? And the other thing these guys did, and this was sort of the one that I was just like, all right, fuck you guys. They shut down some open competition. So a researcher came up with, and I love the name, what would you call the open version of What 3 Words? He called it
Open 3 Words.
What Free Words.
There you go.
That was great. And these fuckers sent him a C and D, and they were like, no, you got to shut. Now, he didn't try to open
because it sounds too similar.
Yeah. Now, some people say that it was a marketing stunt by What 3 Words to get attention to it. It didn't work. I mean, no one else is using it. It was a great concept, but it has too many issues, and then you have to worry about, like, they don't use the same words in different languages. So then between languages,
it sounds
becomes
complicated. It sounds a little complicated.
So, like, on its surface, I think it's really cool. I don't think it really works. The best solution I've seen so far is called geohashing. Are you familiar with geohashing?
No.
So this is super cool. I'll definitely put a link to all of these in the show notes. But the geohashing offers some really neat properties like arbitrary precision, similar prefixes for nearby positions, which is something you want, right? If you're in nearby positions, you want the numbers to look similar. And this is my favorite part, the possibility of gradually removing characters from the end of the code to reduce its size and gradually lose precision.
Sure. That's what happens with longitude and latitude.
Exactly. But now instead of having these numbers that don't make a lot of sense, you have these shorter codes that you can just trim. And I think geohashing, at least everything that I've seen, is probably the best balance of the two. I like plus codes. I think plus codes are good for passing around known locations, but plus codes have some weird nuances to them about you have to know the metro, so the numbers can be the same within different metros, so it can get a little confusing.
Yeah,
but for most use cases, I think plus codes work pretty well. Certainly better than trying to remember lat long. Like, you're not going to, if you're in an emergent situation.
Yeah, but I have a phone that translates Latin long and altitude into a map, and that's really
I know, but how do you communicate that, right? That's what I think is interesting. How do you remember that? Like, if you want to tell somebody.
I don't have to remember it. I can drop a pin. And if I want you to get that information, I can send you the pin.
Your phone battery is dead. You now have to message to someone.
If my phone battery dies in 2024, I can't even get into the Mamba Center to watch the Laker game.
No, that's the reality.
You literally have to have a live phone to get in.
You're yelling at. You're trying to bribe me to take $20 cash from you to go to the grab and go to get you a fucking beer.
I go to the airport And I have to have a working phone in order to get my, and now once I have a working phone and I actually talk to a human, I can get them to print out a ticket. And I always do.
Sure.
Because I'm old and stuff does happen to phones. So give me an actual QR code printed out.
Are you that guy? Are you at the United Counter being like, well, my phone, I could lose my phone between here and the gate. I need a printed ticket. Are you that guy?
No, they're
now?
so nice now. They're so nice.
They know you when you get there? Oh,
They
Mr.
always
Parker.
offer you before you can even ask.
Sure.
They say, can I get you a printed QR code? And I say, thank you.
You know why? Because on your ticket, they print out a little picture of a walker. And that's how they know when they see the walker. It's a little tennis ball. That's how they code it. They see the tennis ball and they go, oh, fuck, here comes an old guy. Print out his ticket. Ask if he wants any magazines for
I'm
the
sure
flight.
they look at my age. I'm sure I'm profiled and they say, let's give this guy an option for a printed QR code.
Sir, can I interest you in any of the Air magazines? Are you interested in any, what was the catalog they used to always have?
Sky Mall.
Sky Mall?
Sure.
Somebody built an empire off
I
that.
used to love Sky Mall.
Did you ever like just fascinated about buying the submarine at the back of that thing that was like 20 grand?
That was the Neiman Marcus catalog. Neiman Marcus catalog. Yeah.
No,
His and her submarines.
There have been moments where, especially when I've gotten off flights, but I've ended up in a foreign place, maybe not a foreign country, but like a different city than I live in, and my phone battery's at like 4%, and I'm trying to get an Uber, and I'm like, oh fuck,
right?
Like if this doesn't happen, you're really fucked.
Yeah,
and you get like trying to find power somewhere. Yeah. That's never a fun time. I thought this was super interesting, these different addressing mechanisms. I'm sure there are some that I'm missing and that people will yell at us in comments or in emails about what we missed. But
those are very cool. That's really cool.
It's super cool. The What 3 Words thing, man, I really hoped that it was going to make it, but there's just
I
too
love
many
What's Free Words. Come on. Let's open source this thing.
Just the pun itself, I think, is great.
Yeah.
I'm sure their patent's going to expire soon. They've been around for quite some time.
Open source people do have usually some very clever.
Usually all nerds are pretty clever, right? Like most nerds, I think, have funny names for things.
I'm amazed that there are still people trying to keep ideas and things like this proprietary and not just turning them out for the good of the world and
Everybody wants to make a buck.
But you can make a buck. You can make a buck, by providing service.
Yeah, but they don't know that, right? They think it's all got to be trade secret and kept proprietary.
That's crazy.
Well, it's built plenty of empires.
It's a great way for your service to die.
But it's killed more technology than it's made successful. That's for damn sure.
30 years ago, that was wonderful.
Sure.
Today, dumb.
I do wonder, like with these What 3 Words guys, because I literally met them in person. They were showcasing things. It wasn't even like a year old, and it was at maybe it was CES or some mapping convention or something. I was like, this is super cool.
You went to a mapping convention?
Yeah.
This I want to hear about.
I've been to some GIS conventions before. It's shameful to admit. By the way, super interesting.
Sure.
I mean, it's no cardboard box convention in Vegas, which I've also been to.
But very different than CES. Was it held in like 1/8 of a ballroom?
Yeah, basically, it was like in the lobby of a Hampton.
But not the whole lobby. You wouldn't need the whole lobby.
No. You still had the breakfast. You had the free breakfast over there, and then there's a little area for people to watch TV, and then you had the mapping conference. Mapping is a giant business. It is.
Is that right?
Esri is like I don't know what's Esri's market cap. Let's find out.
$17. Can't be much more.
Well, inflation. Their peak revenue of 2022 was $1.1 billion. They're privately held. So what do you think on that? Maybe a 9Xer, 13Xer, something like that.
Maybe.
They're worth $10 billion, give or take. It's not nothing. It's mapping data.
Close to nothing.
Yeah, sure. We'll get our $12 LBO and see if we can get this thing moved over. By the way, the CEO's name was Dangermond, which I think is great. So anyway, I met these guys at some mapping convention. I know you've already hazed me for. I was like, well, what's your plan?
I razzed you for it, technically. I didn't haze you, but okay.
Well, you made me drink this beer. I think that's called hazing. And I was like, well, I was very excited. You know me, I can't control myself. I was like, this is super cool. I love this. Like, what's the plan? And they're like, well, we're putting it out there. We built an API. People can access it. And I was like, okay, cool. What's the plan? And they're like, well, we're going to charge people access for it. And I was like, hold on now. What? I'm like, well, we'll get people can use it for their addresses, and then we'll charge like FedEx and UPS to use it. And I was like, but they already have a system that works.
Right.
In like 98% of their use cases.
Yeah.
And they had really neat use cases, especially for like underdeveloped nations where you could find address. I was like, this is super cool. You're never going to get traction ever doing this. Everybody has to use it and own it. And now how do you bolt onto that to make money? I don't know. Build the best goddamn tool set on top of it.
Support is how you do it.
Exactly.
Give it away free and then charge for support.
So I'd like to see a free version of this. It can't be that hard to do, but I also think you have to be thoughtful about this. You can't have words that look the same. If you're differentiating words based on plurals, that's terrible.
Right.
Like I think word order is important. So there's a lot of things to this that are suboptimal. And that's where I think something like plus codes are really geohashing. You should look at geohashing. Geohashing is pretty cool. I'll put a link in the notes for you, for all of our nerd friends. So what's happened? We've gone from typos.
Yes.
What the hell did we do last week?
Weather.
You
didn't even listen to last week's show, did you?
Fuck no, I fell asleep twice recording it. Typos to weather to mapping. Like,
wow.
Fucking season 2, man, has really been fantastic, hasn't it? I think taxes. I think next week you should do taxes.
No, next week we're doing live nude girls.
And scene.
Making a U-turn.
Making a U-turn. Anyway, I don't know. I thought this was interesting. It's mapping and location data. And I just glad I don't need a sextant to deliver my fucking DoorDash order. Can you imagine?
Your food would be cold.
Your food would be cold and mummified by the time you get it.
All right, we have to get out of here, but quickly before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. Every week, what do? I have to grovel to you about not seeing anything. I didn't get to go see the
No, you always do
premiere.
fun things with your kids, and I always think that's way better than my stupid movie or TV show idea.
I don't like those little shits at all. No.
You don't?
I do fun stuff with my kids, and it is a blast.
You do, and I think that's way better.
There's so much that I read during the week that I think is compelling. It's not long form, 1 hour Netflix documentary that's super cool. I want to start showcasing those because I believe I can upstage you on some of these. We'll see.
Go for it.
So there was a short piece this week called "In Loving Memory of Square Checkbox" by Nikita Prokopov. I've probably fucked up his name. I know you personally will love this. He pointed out that every major OS vendor has been adhering to the convention that checkboxes are square and radio buttons are round, pretty much forever in the world of GUIs, right? Even before that in text-based
checkboxes meaning you can choose multiple items in a list. Yep. Radio buttons meaning you can only choose one.
You can only push one.
Yeah.
Then the web came and it brought with it CSS and Flash and JavaScript. And Nikki highlights that the people on the web think conventions are boring and that regular controls need to be reinvented and redesigned.
Well, they help people understand things.
Well, yeah. But the web was just like, fuck you, we're doing whatever we want.
Okay.
There aren't any norms. So the web's always been this basket case. But OSs have always been pretty consistent. Now Apple has fucked that all up this week. How did they do it? Apple will be the first major operating system vendor who has abandoned a 4 decades long tradition. Their new Vision OS, which is what powers the Apple Vision Pro, coming out later this week. Coming out tomorrow. For the first time in the history of Apple, will have round checkboxes. Wow. Fuck us, right? Anyway, his piece
I think we'll figure it out. We're smart people.
If you are a technologist, you should click on this link. You only click on one link in all the show notes, click on this one because it has screenshots of like Windows going back to like 3.1 and every version in
way before Windows. Way before Windows.
Yeah.
There's square brackets, and parentheses being used to. Yeah, sure.
But what's so cool about it is just seeing how something as trivial as the checkbox the pixels have changed over time. Like remember the 90s when everything had like 3D embossed and bezel effects and all that shit. It was garbage. Always. And you can see through that progression. It's really, really fun. So anyway, that's what I've seen. I would like you to try to beat that. Go.
I'm not going to beat that at all. There are 2 movies that I have been told are really good and I haven't seen them.
Yeah.
Boys in the Boat, which is George Clooney's movie. And if you've seen the trailer, it looks amazing. I have not yet been able to see it. Anatomy of a Fall, which I've also heard is great. And I've heard from so many people this movie's really, really good.
Yeah.
I tried to go to the mall, my local mall, which is the Century City Mall. Yeah. And I was going to have lunch with a friend and potentially even see a movie.
Yeah.
And there were 11 parking spaces left at the mall parking lot. So, baby, malls are back, but it's too hard for me to go in and do that. So I just said, let's go to a different restaurant.
Were you driving 12 cars? Why didn't you take one of the 11 spaces? What's wrong?
Well, because there are 100 people going around in the circles trying to find those 11 spaces so they can park. And it would have been years before I could park. And it was just faster to say, let's go to a different restaurant.
Century City Westfield, you just park behind somebody. They don't give a fuck. That's what everybody does there.
No,
leave your keys.
But in any case, I'm recommending 2 movies that I haven't seen. I'm not even recommending them. I'm just telling you, other people have recommended these to me. They say they're quite good. Boys in the Boat and Anatomy of a Fall. You can probably by now, you can probably get them off of some sort of streamer if you're willing to pay $20 for a movie that you stream, which always seems insane, but okay.
You probably can't park at Westfield Century City. It's probably still packed. But listen, folks, you heard it here. Season 2, episode 5 is the first time that I had something more interesting than Jeff, and he didn't even see the fucking thing that he's recommending. Didn't even see it. Yeah. How can you do that?
I'm not. I'm just saying friends have recommended these and they say they're quite good.
But that's not the question. Isn't have your friends seen or read anything good this week? I struggled with this for 52 episodes.
Yeah.
And now you're just like, my friend said
let me tell you what I've seen, which is good. And that is if you are a retailer in the Los Angeles area, and you, by the way, your store is in the Century City Mall. What I've seen is they're selling lots of things. There's lots of foot traffic. You're doing great. By the way, if you go to the Grove, nobody's buying anything.
Really? Is the Grove empty?
No. They're going there to hang out on the grass in the pretty location. They're going there to go to the movies, and they're going there to go to the restaurants, which is great. You won't see anyone carrying a shopping bag.
Last time I went there,
no one's buying anything at the Grove.
Granted, it was sometime during the pandemic, but I feel like a third of the stores were closed at the Grove.
Oh yeah, they closed because they don't move merchandise. By the way, I love the Grove. Absolutely love going there. Never buy a thing when I'm there. I do exactly what I say everyone else is doing. I go see movies and I go have food and I go hang out in the beautiful, and there's, like a train car you can drive around. I've never done that, but
sure, it's a trolley car.
And I can wander over to the farmer's market and I can get other kinds of food. There's lots of great choices. Never buy a thing there. Century City Mall, lots of people walking around with shopping bags.
I like how you said what everybody else says goes on there, including you.
Oh, totally. 100%.
All right. Well, I don't know if I'm going to see The Boys in the Boat. Wait for you to see them first, and then you tell me if they're actually good or not, and then I'll maybe go see them.
Maybe in a future episode, I'll pony up the $20 to watch something on my TV. That seems a little crazy, but whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll let you know how they are. That is the episode.
Thank you for joining us for All This Nonsense, a truly terrible podcast from The Awful Company. Visit us on the web at Nonsense Productions. I'm Stu Little.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like at Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, AntennaPod, iHeartRadio, Spotify, our favorite, Overcast, wherever you get your podcasts from. Also, RIP Google Podcasts.
RIP Google Podcasts. Or just go to podcastindex.org. They've got a whole list of apps that use the podcastindex.org database, which is amazing. Special thanks to our floor director, Maxwell Little.
Wait, is that who's in there? Shouldn't you be in school? What are you doing here?
Now he's here. I'm calling CPS.
Well, I don't know how much time they're going to have. You probably have a long list of things you want to share with them.
Give other violations?
Yeah, exactly. Let's start at the top, sir. Just work through them all. All right, we'll be here every Thursday morning for more nonsense. Please join us.
The pirate walks into a bar with a steering wheel in his pants. The bartender says, "What's up with the steering wheel?" The pirate says, "Arr, it's driving me nuts." Fart, fart, fart.